Have you ever noticed how someone walks could reveal their brain health decades before any diagnosis? It's not just about shuffling feet or slow steps. Your walking pattern holds secrets about your cognitive future that scientists are now unlocking. This fascinating connection between movement and mind could revolutionize how we detect and prevent dementia 20 years before symptoms appear. In this video, we'll explore the hidden signals your body sends about brain health, from walking patterns to grip strength, that could be warning signs you're missing right now. Whether you're concerned about a loved one or want to protect your own cognitive health, understanding these early warning signs could be life-changing. Stay tuned to discover how to read these crucial body signals and learn practical steps to protect your brain health. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this vital information with someone who needs to hear it. 1. You might think walking is just putting one foot in front of the other, but your brain treats it like conducting an orchestra. Every step requires your brain to coordinate dozens of muscles, maintain balance, and process information from your environment. When that coordination starts breaking down, it shows up in your walk long before you notice any memory problems. Here's what researchers have discovered that could change how you think about brain health. Scientists at the Mayo Clinic found something remarkable when they studied people's walking patterns. They weren't just looking at how fast people walked. They were measuring something called gait variability. Think of it like this. A healthy brain produces steps that are incredibly consistent, like a perfectly timed drumbeat. But when brain function starts declining, that rhythm becomes uneven. The study tracked people for years and found that those with irregular walking patterns were much more likely to have toxic protein clumps called amyloid plaques building up in their brains. These are the same proteins linked to Alzheimer's disease. The shocking part? These walking changes showed up decades before any memory symptoms appeared. Your brain has to make split-second decisions with every step. How high to lift your foot? How far to reach forward? How to adjust for that crack in the sidewalk? When your brain starts struggling with these automatic functions, it's often because it's already working overtime to handle other cognitive tasks. Here's a simple test you can try right now. Walk at your normal pace while having a conversation or counting backward from 100 by sevens. Can you do both easily, or do you have to slow down or stop walking to focus on the mental task? If you struggle to do both at the same time, that's what doctors call a high dual task cost. It means your brain doesn't have enough spare capacity to handle walking and thinking simultaneously. This happens because walking isn't as automatic as we think. Your brain constantly processes information about balance, obstacles, and coordination. When cognitive decline begins, the brain starts rationing its resources. It has to choose between maintaining smooth walking or handling complex thoughts, and often walking suffers first. Pay attention to the people around you. Look beyond just walking speed. Notice the rhythm and consistency. Does someone's stride length vary from step to step? Do they hesitate slightly before stepping over curbs or navigating around objects? These subtle changes in walking patterns might be telling a story about brain health that's years ahead of any memory test. The next time you're walking with a family member or friend, try that dual task challenge together. Make it fun. Count backward by threes or name animals that start with each letter of the alphabet while walking. If someone struggles significantly with this combination, it might be worth discussing with their doctor. Sometimes the most important health information isn't found in a blood test or brain scan, but in the simple act of putting one foot in front of the other. 2. Your brain isn't just a command center sending orders down to your body. The real warning signs often come from the other direction, when your senses start sending back faulty reports. Think of your senses as the brain's security cameras. When they malfunction, it's usually because the control room itself is having problems. Let's start with your nose. The nerve that handles smell is special. It's the only one that connects directly to your brain's memory center. No detours, no relay stations. That's why catching a whiff of your grandmother's perfume can instantly take you back decades. But here's what researchers discovered. When older adults couldn't identify common scents like lemon or peppermint on a scratch and sniff test, they were twice as likely to develop dementia years later. The key wasn't just having a weak sense of smell, It was being unable to name what they smelled. Your nose might work fine, but if your brain can't file that information properly, that's a red flag. Now, let's talk about hearing. Sure, most people lose some hearing as they age, but there's something more serious happening. When you can't hear clearly, your brain has to work overtime just to decode conversations. Imagine trying to solve a puzzle while someone's playing loud music. That's what your brain goes through every day with hearing loss. All that extra effort steals energy from other important jobs, like forming memories or making decisions. If you're finding it harder to follow conversations in noisy restaurants, or you feel mentally exhausted after social gatherings, your brain might be working too hard just to hear. The most unsettling warning comes from your eyes, not your vision, but how your brain interprets what you see. Some people start having trouble judging distances. They might miss the cup when pouring coffee or struggle with stairs because they can't tell how deep each step is. They look at a book and the words seem jumbled, even though their eyes work fine. This isn't an eye problem. It's the brain's visual processing center starting to fail. The camera works, but the software that makes sense of the pictures is glitching. Here's a simple test you can try right now. Take a piece of paper and draw a clock from memory. Put in all 12 numbers where they belong. Then draw the hands showing 10 minutes past 11. Don't rush it. Look at your finished clock. Is it round? Are the numbers evenly spaced? Do the hands point to the right spots? This simple drawing uses vision, planning, and memory all at once. If something seems off about your clock, it might be worth mentioning to your doctor. These sensory changes aren't just inconveniences, they're early warning signals. Your brain's ability to make sense of the world is one of its most basic functions. When that starts to slip, it's time to pay attention. The good news is that catching these changes early gives you the best chance to do something about them. 3. The next time you struggle to open a pickle jar, pay attention. That moment of frustration might be your brain sending you an early message. Your grip strength isn't just about hand muscles. It's what doctors call a biomarker for your entire body's health, including your brain. A major 2018 study tracking nearly 500,000 people found something remarkable. Stronger grip strength directly linked to better memory, sharper reasoning, and faster reaction times. People with weaker grips showed actual changes in their brain's white matter, the network that helps different brain regions communicate. Here's what makes this discovery so important. Your muscles aren't just for movement. They're actually one of your body's largest hormone-producing organs, working like an internal pharmacy. When you challenge your muscles, lifting groceries, doing squats, or even squeezing a stress ball, they release special proteins called myokines into your bloodstream. These myokines travel straight to your brain, where they reduce harmful inflammation, encourage new brain cell growth, and protect existing neurons from damage. Strong muscles literally send anti-aging signals to your brain. When your grip weakens, this vital communication system starts going quiet. You don't need to become a bodybuilder. As we age, we naturally lose muscle mass. Doctors call this sarcopenia. The goal is preventing this loss to keep your internal pharmacy running. Want to test where you stand? Try this simple check. Can you carry heavy shopping bags in both hands for about 50 feet without switching your grip? When you stand up from a chair, can you do it without pushing off with your hands? These everyday movements reveal your muscle reserves. The encouraging news is you can improve this easily. Simple resistance exercises work wonders. Chair squats, wall push-ups, or resistance bands all trigger those protective myokine signals to your brain. The weight doesn't matter as much as the effort. You want to work your muscles until they feel fatigued. Think of every resistance exercise as sending a direct message to your brain. Stay sharp, stay protected. Your grip strength reflects this entire communication system between your muscles and mind. It's one of the most powerful predictors of how well your brain will age, and thankfully, one of the most changeable. Start today with simple movements you can do at home. Your future brain will thank you for every squeeze, every lift, every moment you choose to challenge your muscles. The conversation between your body and brain never stops. Make sure it's saying the right things. 4. Picture this. You're sound asleep, and suddenly your partner starts shouting, throwing punches, or kicking like they're fighting for their life. But here's the thing, they're still completely asleep. This isn't just a bad dream or restless night. What you're witnessing is called REM sleep behavior disorder, and it's one of the most serious warning signs your brain can send. During normal sleep, when you're dreaming, your brain has a built-in safety feature. It essentially paralyzes your body so you don't act out your dreams. Think about it. Without this protection, you'd be getting up and walking around every time you dreamed about going to the store. In REM sleep behavior disorder, this safety switch breaks down completely. Now, you might think this is just an odd sleep problem, but recent research has revealed something alarming. Studies tracking people with this disorder found that over 80% developed serious brain diseases like Parkinson's or Lewy body dementia within 10 years. That's not a small risk. That's a massive red flag. The connection comes down to what happens in your brain every single night. While you sleep, your brain runs a cleanup operation, washing away toxic proteins that build up during the day. One of these proteins, called alpha-synuclein, is particularly nasty. When sleep gets disrupted by violent dream episodes, this cleaning process can't work properly. The toxic proteins start piling up in the exact brain areas that control movement and thinking. So what can you do about it? First, if you or your partner experiences these violent sleep episodes, safety comes first. Move any sharp furniture away from the bed. Put cushions on the floor. I've seen people seriously hurt themselves during these episodes, and prevention is much easier than dealing with injuries. Next, create what I call a power down hour before bed. No phones, no TV, no tablets. The blue light from screens messes with your brain's natural sleep signals. Instead, try reading an actual book, listening to calm music, or doing some gentle stretches. Your brain needs this wind down time to prepare for proper sleep. Pay attention to your evening routine too. Eating a big meal or drinking alcohol close to bedtime can mess up your sleep stages and make these problems worse. Your last meal should be at least 3 hours before bed. And if you drink alcohol, keep it earlier in the evening. Here's something many people don't realize. These nighttime battles aren't random. They're your brain's way of telling you that something fundamental is breaking down. The earlier you recognize these signs and take action, the better chance you have of protecting your brain's health for years to come. The most important thing to remember is this: violent dreams that you act out physically are never normal, no matter what age you are. If this is happening to you or someone you love, don't wait. Talk to a doctor who specializes in sleep disorders. Early intervention can make a real difference in how this progresses. Your sleep isn't just about feeling rested tomorrow. It's about protecting your brain for all the tomorrows to come. 5. Have you ever noticed a loved one who used to be the life of the party, or passionate about their garden, or obsessed with their weekend golf game? Just stop? Not because they're sad or depressed. In fact, when you ask them, they say they feel fine. They just don't feel like it anymore. This isn't laziness or a bad mood. This is a condition called apathy, and it's a quiet, insidious warning sign from a changing brain. We often confuse apathy with depression, but they are fundamentally different. Depression is an active state of negative emotion, sadness, guilt, hopelessness. Apathy is the absence of emotion. It's a flat line. Think of it this way. Depression is like being a musician tied to a chair by sadness, still feeling the music surge inside, but unable to break free to play. Apathy is when that same musician's brain has been switched to mute. They sit at the piano, keys cold, with no melodies echoing in their mind anymore. The problem isn't the inability to act. It's that the very reason to act has been erased at the neurological level. This isn't a failure of character. It's a failure of brain wiring. Deep in the brain, a network involving the prefrontal cortex acts as our effort calculator. It constantly weighs the cost of an action against the expected reward. Seeing friends, finishing a project, even making dinner. These activities are supposed to trigger a sense of reward that makes the effort worthwhile. In the early stages of some neurodegenerative diseases, this circuit breaks down. A 2018 study in the journal Brain found that individuals with dementia-related apathy showed reduced activity in the brain's ventral striatum, the very core of our reward and motivation system. The brain can no longer correctly calculate the value of an activity, so almost nothing seems worth the effort. So what happens when the internal drive is gone? We have to become the external drive. But pushing doesn't work. Asking, "Do you want to go for a walk?" invites a no because their brain's calculator has already deemed it too much effort for too little reward. The key is to bypass the decision-making process. Instead of asking, try stating, "The sun is out. We're going to sit on the porch for 5 minutes." You're not asking for a decision. You are initiating a gentle action. The goal must shift from big achievements to small moments of connection. Forget trying to get them to complete an entire project. If they love to paint, don't set up a canvas. Just put a brush in their hand and let them feel the texture. If they love music, don't ask them to choose an album. Just put on their favorite song. You're providing the sensory input without the demand for performance. This creates a bridge to their world without the pressure of expectation. Instead of asking, "Why don't you care anymore?" try asking yourself this: what is one small piece of the world, one sound, one scent, one texture that I can bring into their world today? Your role is no longer to fix their motivation, but simply to provide the experience. This motivational silence is just the first form of communication breakdown in the brain. Soon, another kind of silence may emerge, when the brain knows an object but can no longer find its name. 6. Picture this. Your loved one calls a spoon a food shovel. This isn't just a senior moment. It's your first glimpse into how dementia rewires the brain's language center. And here's what most families don't realize. The way language breaks down tells you exactly which type of dementia you're dealing with. With Alzheimer's, words slip away like sand through fingers. Your mom knows she wants that thing for stirring coffee, but the word spoon is locked behind a door she can't open. She'll talk around it. The metal thing, for eating soup. The concept is crystal clear in her mind. She just can't fish out the right label. As months pass, she might call a watch a hand clock or a telephone a talking box. Close enough that you get the meaning, but not quite right. But there's a completely different beast lurking in the shadows. Frontotemporal dementia doesn't start by stealing memories. It goes straight for language itself. This is called primary progressive aphasia, and it comes in 3 devastating flavors that will shock you. In the first type, grammar simply vanishes. Your dad can name every object in the room perfectly, but he talks like he's sending telegrams: "Wife, storga now." All the building blocks are there, but the glue that holds sentences together has dissolved. The second type is even more unsettling. Grammar stays perfect, speech flows beautifully, but words become empty shells. Your spouse can say duck with perfect pronunciation, but if you ask what a duck is, they'll stare at you with genuine confusion. The word exists, but its meaning has been completely erased. They might point to a cat and ask, "What do you call that creature?" It's not that they forgot the word. The entire concept of cat has been deleted from their mental dictionary. Then there's Lewy body dementia, the wild card. 1 hour you're having a perfectly normal conversation about the grandkids. The next hour, their speech becomes a jumbled mess. Not because they've lost words, but because their brain keeps tuning in and out like a broken radio. The dictionary is fine. The power supply is faulty. So how do you communicate when words are failing? Stop testing and start supporting. Instead of asking, "Do you remember her name?" try this. Hold up the photo and say, "This is your sister Mary. She always made the best apple pie." You're not quizzing. You're providing the missing piece. Create a simple picture book with photos of family members, pets, and favorite places. Add one-word labels underneath. This isn't about reteaching. It's about giving your conversations an anchor when everything else is drifting. Keep your sentences short and clear. Use gestures. If they call a fork a food poker, don't correct them. You know what they mean, and that's what matters. The goal isn't perfect language. It's connection. When someone's losing their words, they're not losing their need to be heard and understood. Your patience and creativity in finding new ways to connect might be the most important medicine you can offer. 7. You've probably been told that dementia steals memories. But what no one prepares you for is when it steals the person you know, leaving a stranger in their place. This isn't about forgetfulness. It's a personality hijack. Picture this. Your dad, who's always been the gentleman of the family, suddenly starts making crude jokes at Sunday dinner. Or your mom, who taught you to always say please and thank you, begins demanding things without any politeness at all. Your first thought might be he's just being rude, or she's showing her true colors. But here's what's really happening. Their brain's social control center is breaking down. Right behind your forehead sits a part of your brain called the orbitofrontal cortex. Think of it as your internal referee. It's what stops you from telling your neighbor exactly what you think of their barking dog at 6 a.m. or from grabbing that last donut when you know you shouldn't. This brain region is like having a wise friend whispering, maybe don't say that out loud before you speak. In many types of dementia, especially frontotemporal dementia, this area gets damaged first. It's like the referee walked off the field mid-game. Without this internal voice of reason, people lose what doctors call their social filter. They might interrupt conversations, make personal comments about someone's appearance, or laugh at inappropriate times. Dr. Catherine Rankin's research team proved this connection in 2011. They found that when this specific brain area shrinks, people lose their ability to read social cues and follow basic manners. The person isn't choosing to be rude. The part of their brain that handles politeness is literally broken. This also affects something called theory of mind, basically the ability to understand that other people have different thoughts and feelings than you do. When this breaks down, your loved one might not realize that their blunt comments hurt your feelings, or that talking loudly in a restaurant bothers other diners. They're not being selfish on purpose. They've lost the ability to step into someone else's shoes. You might also notice they become more impulsive. The brain's think before you act system isn't working properly anymore. They might spend money they don't have, eat food that's too hot, or walk into traffic without looking. It's not that they don't care about consequences, they literally can't process them the same way anymore. Here's something that might surprise you. Sometimes when someone can't remember where they put something, their brain creates a simple explanation to fill the gap. If mom can't find her purse, her brain might decide someone must have taken it, rather than, I forgot where I put it. This isn't paranoia in the traditional sense. It's more like her brain is a detective trying to solve a mystery with half the clues missing. When this happens, don't argue with the logic. Instead, focus on the feeling behind it. If she says someone took her purse, try saying, that must feel really upsetting rather than no one took it, mom. You're acknowledging her distress without fighting the confused reasoning. The hardest part is remembering that the core person you love is still there. Their personality might seem hijacked, but their deeper self, their capacity for love, their memories of good times together, their fundamental nature, that's all still intact. It's just harder to reach through the neurological static. When your loved one says something that feels hurtful, try asking yourself a different question. Instead of why are they being mean to me, ask what is their brain trying to tell me? Are they frustrated, scared, confused? When you become a detective of their needs rather than a judge of their behavior, everything changes. The disease is the hijacker here, not the person you love. They're still in there, just working with faulty equipment. 8. Imagine the feeling of jet lag, not from crossing oceans, but from crossing decades in an instant. One moment, the brain's internal clock says it's 1985 and time to prepare dinner for young children. The next, the eyes see a reflection in the mirror of an 80-year-old stranger. This is the world for someone experiencing disorientation. They become time travelers in their own lives. It's not that they believe it's 1985. It's that for their brain, it is 1985. The internal calendar is gone. This leads to one of the most frightening behaviors for families: wandering. The common image of wandering is of an aimless shuffle. This is a profound misunderstanding. In reality, wandering is one of the most mission-driven behaviors in dementia. They aren't wandering away from home. They're trying to get a home. The problem is home might be their childhood house from 70 years ago, or they might be trying to get to work, to pick up the kids from school, or to find a spouse who passed away years ago. They are on a mission, driven by a powerful, logical need within their own fractured reality. So what's breaking down? Deep in the brain, the parietal lobe acts as your internal GPS. It constantly integrates what you see, your body's position, and your sense of balance to build a mental map of your surroundings. This isn't a failure of the eyes or ears, but a failure of the brain's central command in making sense of that sensory data. A 2018 study in the journal Brain by Coughlin and colleagues showed how deterioration in this specific area, the posterior cortex, directly leads to an inability to navigate, even in familiar spaces. The brain can no longer create a reliable map. The rooms in a house become disconnected islands, and the street outside becomes an alien landscape. They aren't just forgetting the route. The very ability to understand a route is gone. This spatial confusion is often paired with temporal confusion. Your brain has specialized time cells that help you perceive the flow of events. When these cells malfunction, time collapses. Yesterday, last year, and a decade ago can all feel like just now. This is why someone might insist they need to go to work at 10 p.m. In their mind, it's 8 a.m. on a workday. Arguing with them is like arguing with a traveler that their watch is wrong, when, in their time zone, it's perfectly correct. So, how do you keep a determined time traveler safe? Locking the doors is a start, but a determined person will often find a way out. The goal is not to trap them, but to make the exit less obvious and redirect their mission. Try this. Place a black doormat in front of the exit. To a brain struggling with depth perception, this can look like a hole in the floor, a visual stop sign that they will avoid. You can also camouflage the door itself. Paint the doorknob the same color as the door, or hang a curtain or a wall tapestry over it. The door doesn't disappear, but it no longer shouts exit. When your loved one says, "I have to go home," instead of correcting them with "you are home," join their narrative. Respond with, "Oh, we're going home? It's a bit late to travel now. Let's have a seat and a cup of tea, and we can plan the trip for the morning." This approach is not deception. It is strategic validation. You are not confirming a falsehood, but validating the underlying emotion of feeling lost and the powerful need for a mission. This transforms you from a guard enforcing a confusing reality into a compassionate co-pilot on their journey. Create an environment that helps their struggling brain. Don't rearrange furniture. Create clear, high-contrast landmarks inside the house. A brightly colored blanket on their favorite chair. A large, unique piece of art on the wall leading to the bathroom. These become anchors in a confusing sea. A large digital clock that clearly displays Tuesday morning, October 24th, can provide a crucial temporal anchor that their own brain can no longer create. Remember, wandering isn't defiance or confusion for its own sake. It's a person trying to fulfill what feels like an urgent, logical mission in a world where their internal compass has been scrambled. When we understand this, we can work with their reality instead of against it, keeping them safe while honoring their need for purpose and direction. 9. Picture this. You're in a large, empty hall, and you shout hello. The sound bounces back to you, then bounces again, each echo a little fainter but still recognizable. For someone with dementia, thoughts work exactly like this. They ask, "What are we doing today?" You answer clearly. 5 minutes later, that same question bounces back to them, feeling completely fresh and urgent. Here's what's happening inside their brain. Think of the hippocampus as your brain's filing clerk. When you ask a question and get an answer, this clerk is supposed to stamp that interaction as completed and file it away. But in dementia, that stamping mechanism is broken. The question never gets marked as handled, so it stays in the brain's active inbox, demanding attention over and over again. A 2018 study found something fascinating. People with early cognitive decline don't just forget the answer to their question. Their brain completely fails to record that they asked the question in the first place. Without that context, every time a question surfaces, it feels brand new. This is why saying, "You just asked me that," doesn't help. You're referencing a file that doesn't exist in their system. These repeated questions often signal an unmet emotional need. Is it time to go yet? Might not really be about the schedule. It's anxiety echoing back. The person folding the same napkin repeatedly isn't being mindless. They're searching for purpose and trying to calm their agitated mind. The brain is stuck in a loop, trying to solve a feeling of unease. So how do you break the echo without causing confusion? Create what I call an environmental anchor. Get a large whiteboard and place it somewhere central. Write the day's plan in simple terms. 9 a.m., breakfast. 1 p.m., lunch with Susan. For p.m., watch the news. When they ask what's happening, point to the board and say, "Great question. Let's check our plan together." This gives their struggling brain a reliable external memory to lean on. Here's the key insight. Treat the repetition as your brain's security system gone haywire. Just like a smoke detector that keeps beeping because it can't register that you've already checked for fire, their brain keeps sending the same alert because it can't register that the concern has been addressed. Try the acknowledge and redirect approach. If they keep asking, "When is my daughter visiting?" and she's not coming today, don't just say "not today." Instead, acknowledge what's driving the question. "You're thinking about her a lot today. She really loves you. Want to look at that photo of her on the kitchen counter?" You've satisfied the emotional need behind a repetitive question. Sometimes the echo gets louder when they're tired, hungry, or overwhelmed. Pay attention to patterns. Does the repetition increase in the late afternoon? That might be sundown syndrome kicking in. Are they asking the same question right before meals? Low blood sugar could be amplifying their confusion. Create small, predictable routines that give their brain something to hold on to. Maybe it's always having coffee at 10 a.m. while looking through a photo album, or always watching the same news program at 6 p.m. These routines become anchors that help organize their scattered thoughts. Remember, you're not trying to fix their memory. You're becoming their external memory system. When you understand that their repetitive questions are echoes bouncing around in a broken acoustic space, you can respond with patience instead of frustration. You're not dealing with stubbornness or attention-seeking. You're helping a brain that's working incredibly hard to make sense of a confusing world. The goal isn't to stop the echoes completely. It's to make them softer, less distressing, and easier for both of you to live with. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is simply answer the same question with the same gentle patience, knowing that for them, it truly is the first time they've asked. 10. When dementia reaches its later stages, the brain's reality-checking system starts to malfunction. Think of it like a security guard who's fallen asleep on the job. The creative part of the brain keeps working, but there's no one left to say, "Wait, that's not actually happening." This creates two distinct problems that people often confuse. Hallucinations are when your loved one sees, hears, or feels things that aren't there. They might watch children playing in an empty room or hear music from silent radio. Delusions are different. These are false beliefs that feel completely real to them. The most heartbreaking example is when they become convinced that you, their spouse or child, have been replaced by an identical-looking stranger. Here's what's actually happening in the brain. Research shows that hallucinations aren't just vision problems, they're communication breakdowns. The part of the brain that processes what we see can't properly talk to the part that pays attention and double-checks information. So a shadow on the wall gets upgraded into a person because there's no internal fact-checker saying, "Hold on, let me take another look." When your loved one insists there's a stranger in the house, don't argue with them. That's like telling someone a movie they're watching isn't real. It doesn't work and only makes them upset. Instead, become their partner in the story they're experiencing. Say something like, "A stranger? Show me where they are. Let's go check it out together." You're not agreeing that there's actually someone there, but you're taking their concerns seriously and working with them to address it. This approach works because you're entering their reality as an ally, not an opponent. Walk through the house with them. Check the doors. Turn on lights. By the time you've done this together, they often feel safer and the stranger has usually disappeared from their awareness. Before you assume these episodes are just part of dementia's progression, play detective. Urinary tract infections are notorious for causing sudden, intense confusion and hallucinations in older adults. Dehydration, constipation, new medications, or even something as simple as dirty glasses can trigger these episodes. Sometimes what looks like a hallucination is just poor lighting turning a coat on a chair into a threatening figure. The key is treating the whole person, not just managing symptoms. A brain that's dehydrated, fighting an infection, or not getting proper nutrition is much more likely to have these reality glitches. Make sure they're drinking enough water, eating regularly, and that any infections get treated promptly. Remember, when someone with dementia describes something that isn't there, they're often trying to communicate a deeper need. The stranger in the house might represent feeling unsafe or unprotected. The children playing might reflect a longing for family or happier times. Listen for the emotion behind the experience. That's where you'll find the real message they're trying to share. 11. When someone with dementia can't button their shirt anymore, we usually think their fingers have gotten weak or stiff. But here's what's really happening. Their brain has lost the instruction manual. The hands work fine, the fingers are strong enough, but the brain can't remember the sequence. Grab the button, line it up with the hole, push it through. It's like trying to follow a recipe when half the steps have been erased. This is called Apraxia, and it's one of the most frustrating parts of dementia for families to watch. Your loved one might stare at a fork, knowing exactly what it is, even feeling hungry, but their brain simply cannot send the right signals to pick it up and bring it to their mouth. The disconnect isn't in their muscles. It's in the communication system between their brain and body. The same thing happens with bathroom accidents. Most people think incontinence means the bladder muscles have given up. Not usually. The bladder is actually working perfectly and sending its "I'm full" message loud and clear. The problem is in the frontal part of the brain, the same area that helps you make good decisions and follow social rules. This brain region normally receives that full bladder signal and responds with "wait, find a bathroom first." When dementia damages this area, there's nobody home to answer the phone. The bladder gets the all-clear signal by default. Research shows us something important here. When someone with Alzheimer's starts having bathroom accidents, it often means the disease is progressing more aggressively. It's not just an inconvenience. It's actually a window into what's happening inside the brain. Understanding this changes everything about how we help. Instead of just pulling someone up from their chair when they're struggling, become their external brain. Break it down. Put your feet flat on the floor. Wait for them to do it. Now, lean forward. Wait again. Push up with your hands. You're rebuilding the step-by-step process their brain can no longer provide automatically. For dressing, forget about buttons and zippers. Elastic waistbands and pullover shirts aren't just easier. They eliminate steps from a sequence that has become impossibly complex in their mind. When someone struggles with a zipper for 10 minutes, they're not being stubborn. Their brain is trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. With bathroom issues, timing beats waiting for them to ask. Take them every 2 hours whether they mention it or not. You're creating a routine their body can learn even when their brain's alarm system is broken. Paint the bathroom door a bright color or put a high-contrast seat on the toilet. These visual cues help their brain find the target when other navigation skills are fading. The emotional part matters just as much as the practical part. When accidents happen, and they will, your reaction sets the tone. Stay calm and matter of fact. Clean up without drama or frustration. Remember, they're not doing this on purpose. Their brain is betraying them, and they're probably more upset about it than you are. For tasks like brushing teeth or combing hair, try hand-over-hand guidance. Put your hand gently over theirs and guide them through the motion. You're not just helping them complete the task. You're helping their brain remember the pattern through touch and repetition. Keep routines simple and consistent. If breakfast happens at the same time every day with the same setup, their brain has a better chance of staying on track. Change confuses a brain that's already struggling to make sense of the world. Watch for signs they're getting overwhelmed. If someone who could dress themselves yesterday suddenly can't today, they might just be having a bad brain day. Don't push it. Sometimes stepping back and trying again in an hour works better than forcing the issue. Most importantly, focus on what they can still do rather than what they've lost. If they can't button a shirt but can still put their arms through the sleeves, celebrate that. Every maintained ability is a victory worth acknowledging. The physical challenges of dementia aren't really about the body failing. They're about the brain's control center going offline. When you understand this, you can work with the brain that's left instead of fighting against the disease. You become the missing link between intention and action, helping preserve both function and dignity for as long as possible. 12. Picture two brains on a medical scan. both showing identical damage from Alzheimer's disease. Same amount of plaques, same tangles, same deterioration. Yet one person is still balancing their checkbook and playing bridge with friends, while the other needs help remembering their children's names. What makes the difference? It's something called cognitive reserve. Think of your brain like a city's road system. A small town has one main highway. Block that road with construction and nothing moves. But a big city like New York has highways, side streets, back alleys, and subway tunnels. Block the main route, and traffic finds another way. The city keeps running. Your brain works the same way. People with high cognitive reserve have built multiple mental pathways over their lifetime. When disease damages one route, their brain automatically switches to backup systems. Here's proof this isn't just theory. Researchers studied hundreds of older adults and found something remarkable. People who spoke 2 languages their whole lives developed dementia 4.5 years later than those who only spoke 1 language. Why? Constantly switching between languages is like cross-training for your brain. It builds those backup highways. Now, many people hear this and think, great, but I'm 65 and only speak English. Too late for me. Wrong. Your brain can still build new roads at any age. It's slower than when you were 20, but it never stops. The secret isn't doing easy mental exercises. Those daily crossword puzzles you've been doing for years, they're like driving the same route to work every day. Your brain goes on autopilot. To build new pathways, you need to get mentally lost. Pick something that feels completely foreign to your usual way of thinking. If you're a numbers person who's worked in accounting, try watercolor painting. You'll struggle with mixing colors, understanding light and shadow, expressing emotions through art. That struggle is your brain laying down new neural highways. If you're more of an artistic type, try learning basic computer coding or video editing. The logical, step-by-step problem solving will activate brain regions you rarely use. The goal isn't becoming Picasso or building the next Facebook. The benefit comes from being a beginner again, from that frustration when things don't work the first time. Every time you push through that mental discomfort, you're literally rewiring your brain. You're creating those detour routes that might save your memory years from now. The most powerful question isn't what hobby should I try? It's what's the most challenging thing I can learn this month that's completely outside my comfort zone. Your future self will thank you for every moment you spent building those mental backup roads. 13. Most people think brain-healthy exercise means taking long, gentle walks. While walking is good, the real brain boost comes from those moments when you feel out of breath. Your brain produces a special protein called BDNF. Think of it as fertilizer for your brain cells. This protein helps your existing brain cells stay healthy and helps grow new ones. The key to releasing more BDNF isn't how long you exercise, but how hard you push yourself for short bursts. A 2020 study looked at healthy older adults doing high-intensity interval training on stationary bikes. They did short bursts of hard pedaling followed by easy recovery periods. The result? Their BDNF levels shot up immediately after the workout. You don't need a gym to do this. If you normally walk for exercise, try power walking from one mailbox to the next, then slow down for the next 2 mailboxes. You should feel breathless enough that you couldn't easily chat, but not so winded that you feel unsafe. Repeat this 5 or 6 times during your walk. This approach gives you more brain benefit in 15 minutes than a 45-minute leisurely stroll. The brief challenge signals your brain to release those protective chemicals. Here's your practical challenge. Find 3 moments this week to be intentionally breathless for just 60 seconds. You can do this while walking, climbing stairs, or even doing household chores at a faster pace. The goal isn't to exhaust yourself. It's to send a clear message to your brain that it needs to stay sharp and resilient. Those short bursts of effort are like pressing a reset button that tells your brain to start building and repairing itself. Start small and listen to your body. Even 1 minute of intentional effort can make a difference. Your brain is waiting for that signal to begin its repair work. 14. Your brain is like a high-performance race car engine that's incredibly picky about fuel. But here's where things get heated. there's a fierce debate about what the best fuel actually is. On one side, you've got the steady, reliable, time-tested approach. On the other, there's this radical emergency fuel system that kicks in when the main engine starts failing. Let's start with what everyone agrees on. Your brain runs almost entirely on glucose. That's sugar from the food you eat. It's like premium gasoline for your mental engine. For decades, scientists figured the best strategy was to keep that glucose system running smoothly with the right mix of nutrients. Enter the mind diet. This isn't some trendy eating plan. It's a research-backed approach that combines the Mediterranean diet with the DASH diet, but with a laser focus on brain protection. A major 2015 study followed over 900 older adults and found something remarkable. People who stuck closest to the mind diet had brains that functioned as if they were 7.5 years younger. The mind diet is pretty straightforward. You eat more of 10 things: leafy greens, other vegetables, nuts, berries, beans, whole grains, fish, poultry, olive oil, and a little wine. You eat less of 5 things: red meat, butter and margarine, cheese, pastries and sweets, and fried food. The magic happens when these nutrients work together. The folate in spinach, the antioxidants in berries, the healthy fats in olive oil all team up to fight inflammation and protect your brain cells. But then something completely different emerged, and it turned everything upside down. Scientists discovered that Alzheimer's disease might actually be a brain energy crisis. Here's what happens. The brain's ability to use glucose gets damaged, like an engine that can't process regular gasoline anymore. The fuel is there, but the engine can't use it effectively. This discovery led to a radical idea: the ketogenic diet. Instead of trying to fix the broken glucose system, why not switch to a completely different fuel? The keto diet forces your body to burn fat instead of carbs, creating molecules called ketones. Your brain can run on these ketones like a backup generator. Think about it this way. If the main power lines to your house are damaged, you don't try to fix them in the middle of a blackout. You fire up the generator. Some small studies show that people with cognitive problems can actually improve when they switch to this ketone burning mode. But here's the catch. Running your whole life on a backup generator isn't ideal. The ketogenic diet is extremely restrictive. We're talking about cutting carbs down to almost nothing. Most people find it nearly impossible to stick with long term. Plus, for healthy brains trying to prevent problems, there's very little evidence it's better than the proven approaches. So what about supplements? The supplement industry would love you to believe a pill can do all the work. But for most brain health supplements, the science just isn't there. The nutrients that actually matter are best found in real food. Omega-3 fatty acids, especially DHA, are crucial for your brain cell membranes. You can get plenty by eating fatty fish like salmon twice a week. Vitamin D is another key player. Low levels are linked to higher dementia risk. But instead of guessing with supplements, ask your doctor to check your blood levels first. Here's what this actually looks like on your plate. It's simpler than you think. Oatmeal with berries for breakfast. A big salad with spinach and grilled chicken for lunch, dressed with olive oil. Baked salmon with broccoli for dinner. You're not aiming for perfection. You're just shifting the balance toward brain-protective foods. The bottom line? For most people, the mind diet approach makes the most sense. It's sustainable, it's backed by solid research, and it protects your brain while you're still healthy. The ketogenic approach might be useful if you're already dealing with cognitive problems, but it's more like emergency medicine than daily maintenance. This week, try this simple experiment. Pick just one brain-healthy food group. Let's say berries. Your only goal is to have one serving of berries every day. That's it. Notice how it feels to consciously add one protective element to your daily routine. Small changes like this, done consistently, are what build real brain protection over time. 15. Look at your last brain scan report. See those tiny white spots scattered throughout? Your doctor probably called them white matter hyperintensities, or maybe just said some small vessel changes. Nothing to worry about. But here's what those spots really are: microscopic scars on your brain's wiring system. Evidence of thousands of silent mini-strokes you never even felt. These aren't random accidents. They're the direct result of what's happening in your blood vessels right now. Today, as you're reading this. Your brain might be only 2% of your body weight, but it demands 20% of every drop of blood your heart pumps. To meet this incredible demand, it relies on the most delicate network of tiny blood vessels in your entire body. And that's exactly where the trouble starts. High blood pressure doesn't just threaten your heart. It's like trying to water a delicate orchid with a fire hose. Every single day, the relentless pressure causes microscopic tears in the fragile vessels deep inside your brain. The landmark Sprint Mind study proved this isn't inevitable. When researchers helped people lower their systolic blood pressure to 120 instead of the standard 140, something remarkable happened. The participants didn't just feel better. Their brain scans showed significantly fewer of these damaging scars. The fire hose had been turned down to a gentle stream. But pressure is only part of the story. High blood sugar, even if you're not diabetic, acts like liquid sandpaper flowing through your bloodstream. It makes your normally flexible blood vessel walls stiff and brittle through a process called glycation. Think of how sugar caramelizes and hardens when you cook with it. That's literally what's happening inside your blood vessels. When vessels become stiff, they can't expand on demand to deliver extra blood when part of your brain is working hard, like when you're trying to remember someone's name or solve a problem. This damage from pressure and sugar creates chronic inflammation throughout your body. That inflammation weakens your brain's most critical defense, the blood-brain barrier. Think of this barrier as the world's most exclusive security system, deciding what gets into your brain and what stays out. When this security system is compromised by blood vessel damage, inflammatory molecules and toxins from your body can sneak past the guards. Once inside, they trigger a cascade of destruction, accelerating brain cell death. Here's the devastating truth. High pressure, high sugar, and inflammation rarely work alone. They create a vicious cycle where each problem makes the others worse. The pressure damages the vessel. The sugar makes it brittle, and the resulting inflammation opens the gates for more destruction. This is why so many people develop both vascular problems and Alzheimer's disease together. Your most powerful protection isn't found in any supplement bottle or brain training app. It's knowing 3 simple numbers and working with your doctor to keep them in the healthy range. Your blood pressure, your blood sugar, or A1C, and your inflammation level measured by C-reactive protein. Managing these numbers isn't just about preventing heart attacks. It's about protecting the very essence of who you are. Every day, all this cellular activity creates an enormous amount of toxic waste inside your skull. This metabolic garbage must be flushed out or it will poison your brain cells. But your brain has no lymphatic system like the rest of your body. Instead, it has a secret cleaning system that only activates when you're completely unconscious. When this nightly brain wash fails, the consequences are severe and immediate. 16. You've probably heard that you need 8 hours of sleep, but here's what most people don't realize. It's not just about time in bed. It's about what happens to your brain's cleaning schedule when modern life throws it completely off track. Let me tell you about something called sleep architecture. Think of it like a carefully choreographed dance between different types of sleep: light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. Each stage has to happen in the right order for the right amount of time, like ingredients in a recipe. When this sequence gets disrupted, your brain's waste removal system can't do its job properly. Here's where things get tricky. As we age, we naturally spend less time in deep sleep stages. But modern habits are making this problem much worse. That glass of wine you have to unwind, it might help you fall asleep faster, but it completely sabotages the later stages of sleep when your brain does its most important cleaning work. You end up with what I call junk sleep. You're unconscious, but your brain isn't getting the maintenance it needs. The same thing happens with sleeping pills. They knock you out, but they don't give you real, restorative sleep. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken pipe. You've covered the problem, but you haven't fixed it. Now, let me share some practical strategies that actually work. First, let's talk about temperature, but not in the way you might expect. Yes, a cool bedroom helps, but here's the insider trick. Take a warm bath or soak your feet in warm water about 90 minutes before bedtime. This sounds backwards, but it actually helps your core body temperature drop faster by dilating blood vessels in your hands and feet. It's like opening windows to cool down a house. Second, consistency beats perfection every time. Your brain craves routine more than anything else. Going to bed and waking up at the same time every day, yes, even on weekends, is more powerful than any supplement or gadget. This anchors your internal clock and keeps your sleep architecture intact. Here's something most people get wrong about light exposure. It's not just about getting morning sunlight or dimming lights at night. The key is contrast. You want bright light during the day and very dim light in the evening. If you're scrolling your phone in a dark room, you're sending mixed signals to your brain about what time it is. Let's talk about caffeine for a moment. That afternoon coffee might seem harmless, but caffeine has a half-life of about 6 hours. If you have coffee at 2 p.m., half of it is still in your system at 8 p.m. It's like having a low-level alarm going off in your brain when it's trying to wind down. Exercise is incredibly powerful for sleep, but timing matters. Regular physical activity improves deep sleep quality, but working out too close to bedtime can be stimulating. Aim to finish intense exercise at least 3 hours before you plan to sleep. Here's something that might surprise you. Your bedroom should be a sanctuary for sleep only. Many people use their bedroom as an office, entertainment center, and relaxation space all rolled into one. Your brain needs clear signals about what each space is for. When you consistently use your bedroom only for sleep, your brain starts preparing for rest the moment you walk in. Food timing plays a bigger role than most people realize. Eating a large meal close to bedtime forces your digestive system to work overtime when your body should be focusing on repair and restoration. Try to finish eating at least 2 to 3 hours before bed. One of the most overlooked factors is stress and worry. If your mind is racing with tomorrow's to-do list or replaying today's problems, your nervous system can't shift into rest mode. Keep a notepad by your bed to quickly jot down any thoughts that pop up. This simple act of writing them down often helps your brain let go. Room darkness matters more than you might think. Even small amounts of light can interfere with melatonin production. Consider blackout curtains or an eye mask. Your bedroom should be dark enough that you can't see your hand in front of your face. The bottom line is this: good sleep isn't a luxury. It's essential maintenance for your brain. Every night you don't get quality sleep is a night your brain can't properly clean itself. The good news is that when you start prioritizing sleep architecture over just sleep duration, you'll likely notice improvements in your thinking, memory, and energy within just a few weeks. Small changes in your evening routine can have profound effects on your brain's ability to maintain itself. Start with 1 or 2 of these strategies and build from there. Your future self will thank you for the investment you make in quality sleep today. 17. Think of alcohol and nicotine as cognitive loan sharks. They offer you immediate relief, that glass of wine after work, that cigarette during stress, but they're collecting interest on your brain's future. The payment comes due in ways most people never connect to their evening ritual. Here's what happens when you drink that moderate glass of wine. Alcohol doesn't just kill brain cells, it's much more insidious. It blocks your body from absorbing thiamine, which is vitamin B1. Without thiamine, your brain can't convert sugar into energy properly. Imagine having a full gas tank, but a clogged fuel line. Your brain's memory centers and coordination areas start running on empty, slowly starving while surrounded by fuel they can't use. The BMJ followed people for 30 years and found something that should make every moderate drinker pause. People having just a few drinks per week showed significantly faster shrinkage of their hippocampus. That's your brain's filing cabinet for memories. We're not talking about alcoholics here. These are people who thought they were drinking responsibly. Smoking creates a different kind of damage. Every cigarette acts like a tourniquet on your brain's blood vessels. Picture thousands of tiny garden hoses feeding your brain oxygen. Nicotine squeezes these hoses shut, creating mini strokes throughout your brain tissue. You won't feel these microstrokes happening, but over years, they accumulate into the same white matter damage we see in people with vascular dementia. Now here's the part that catches people off guard when they decide to quit. You'll probably feel worse before you feel better. Your brain has adapted to running on compromised fuel. When you remove alcohol or nicotine, your brain chemistry goes haywire temporarily. You might experience more brain fog, irritability, and trouble concentrating for the first few weeks. This isn't failure. It's your brain recalibrating itself. The secret to quitting successfully isn't willpower alone. You need to replace the ritual, not just remove it. If you always have wine at 6 p.m. to mark the end of your workday, don't just sit there with empty hands. Create a new 6 p.m. ritual. Take a walk, call a friend, or make a special herbal tea. Your brain needs a new reward to associate with that time trigger. For smokers, identify your smoking triggers and break the chain. If you always smoke after meals, immediately get up and wash dishes instead. If you smoke with coffee, switch to tea for a few weeks. Change the entire routine that leads to reaching for a cigarette. Your brain's recovery follows a predictable timeline. The first month is rough as your brain chemistry rebalances. But around month 3, something remarkable happens. Blood flow improves, inflammation drops, and people often report a mental clarity they've forgotten they once had. After a full year, your risk for cognitive decline starts dropping significantly as your brain builds new, healthier pathways. The brain damage from these habits isn't permanent if you catch it in time. Your brain has an incredible ability to repair itself once you stop the daily assault. New blood vessels can grow, inflammation can heal, and damaged areas can often regain function. But the clock is ticking. The longer you wait, the more damage accumulates, and the harder it becomes for your brain to bounce back completely. Stop thinking of quitting as giving something up. You're giving your brain back its ability to function at full capacity. That evening glass of wine isn't relaxing you. It's slowly dimming your mental lights. That cigarette isn't calming your nerves. It's strangling your brain's blood supply. The real relaxation comes when your brain can finally run on clean fuel again. 18. The story of dementia treatment has fundamentally shifted. For decades, medical professionals focused on managing symptoms and making patients comfortable. Today, science has crossed a critical threshold, moving from symptom management to actually targeting the disease process itself. A new class of medications has emerged that doesn't just mask memory problems. These treatments, known as amyloid-targeting monoclonal antibodies, work like specialized cleanup crews in the brain. They're designed to identify and mark amyloid plaques, those toxic protein clumps that accumulate in Alzheimer's disease, for removal by the brain's natural immune system. Clinical trials like the Clarity AD study show these treatments can slow cognitive decline by about 27% over 18 months. That's modest, but it's real progress. Here's the critical insight, though. Clearing amyloid doesn't reverse existing damage. Think of it like fixing a leaky pipe that's been dripping on wooden floors for years. Stopping the leak prevents further damage, but it doesn't repair the wood that's already rotted. This reveals something important about Alzheimer's. Amyloid triggers the disease, but once the damage cascade begins, it continues even after the trigger is removed. That's why these treatments work best in the earliest stages, before extensive brain damage occurs. They also carry risks like brain swelling that require careful monitoring with regular MRI scans. Scientists are pushing even further with gene therapy approaches. The APO4 gene significantly increases Alzheimer's risk, while APO2 provides protection. Researchers are experimenting with using modified, harmless viruses to deliver protective APO2 instructions to brain cells. This doesn't change a person's DNA permanently, but gives brain cells better tools to resist disease processes. Perhaps most intriguing is research into stimulating the brain's natural cleaning systems. MIT researchers discovered that exposing mice to specific light and sound frequencies, 40 Hz or 40 beats per second, activates microglia, the brain's immune cells, making them more effective at clearing amyloid plaques. This non-invasive approach essentially tunes up the brain's built-in maintenance system. Early human trials are underway, representing a completely new treatment category. The future of dementia care won't rely on a single solution. Instead, it's moving toward personalized combination approaches, similar to how heart disease is treated today. Diagnosis will become incredibly precise. Instead of simply hearing, "you have dementia," patients might learn they have early-stage amyloid-positive disease with moderate vascular involvement. Treatment plans will match this precision. A patient might receive amyloid-clearing medication to halt the initial trigger, combined with gamma-frequency stimulation to boost natural brain cleanup processes. These medical interventions work as catalysts, amplifying the benefits of vascular and metabolic health established through lifestyle choices. This represents the end of therapeutic hopelessness for Alzheimer's disease. The path forward is complex and requires partnership between patients, healthcare providers, and emerging technologies. The tools are becoming available to not just manage decline, but to meaningfully intervene in the disease process itself.